Name.
Cristiano.
Alessandro.
City of birth.
Busto Arsizio, Italy.
Milano, Italy.
What's your favorite food?
Pasta with pretty much anything that is not green.
The veal season chop that they sell at United.
Year of birth.
1977.
1980.
What's your favorite song?
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine.
You heard before, Where the Streets Have No Name.
Where do you live now?
Now I live in Montreal, Canada, and it's a great place to live.
I live in Montreal, Canada, et c'est très joli.
Tell us the name of a song that marked your life.
You are my sunshine.
Povera voce.
Cri, tell us something that Alessandro worries about.
The list is very long, pretty much anything, but I would go for, I think he had all the diseases in the world. He thinks.
Ale, tell us something Cri worries about.
Opening the fridge and find it empty, and sharks, but that's too long to explain.
Shark I won.
Cristiano, what is Alessandro's job?
Very good question. I'm not sure that he actually does work, but I think he's a university professor in Montreal. I know he's a university professor in Montreal. What does that entail? I'm not too sure. Supposedly he teaches occasionally, he does research in economics.
Alessandro, what is Cristiano's job?
On paper, he is a medical oncologist specializing in breast cancer. He's also a very fine psychologist.
Okay. Hello everybody, and welcome to the New York encounter that this year enters directly into your house, wherever you are. My name is Marco, and with Alessandro and Cristiano, we're talking to you from Canada, as you might have seen from the beautiful images at the beginning of the video. And as we all have experienced, our lives have been changed by the heat of the pandemic, and our way of being together, of working, and in general, living life has been modified. But is this a limitation or an occasion to find new way to live? And today we wanted to ask Cristiano and Alessandro their experience. And Alessandro, how did the pandemic change your daily job?
Well, okay, so I'm a professor, despite what Cristiano thinks, and so I teach courses. And of course, when the pandemic struck, we had to move everything online. And then in the summer, there was a lot of discussion on how to actually run the courses online in the fall. And I was very, very lucky because we had the opportunity to actually give the courses from a classroom, although we didn't have the students. So the students would be in Zoom, but I would be in a classroom. And clearly everything was to be rethought. So the courses had to be rethought. It has to be rethought the way in which, for example, evaluations are made, because of course you presume that students might cheat, which in North America they don't do, by the way. And so all the evaluation things had to be changed, but also, you know, the possibility of using technology was opening new opportunities. So, for instance, in my case, I thought, well, I can invite people in the classroom, right, with more ease. So I organized a Q&A session with the high officer of the Canadian Ministry of Economy on the pandemic. I started thinking that instead of just lecturing, as I typically do, and then having the exam, midterm and final, I could have more evaluations, and I could introduce case studies. So for instance, I would give 2-3 lectures, and then we would have a case study like US-China trade war or the global financial crisis. So he had really to be reinvented, but in a way that somehow I found interesting. So I think that the courses that I taught, as I taught them, were more interesting to me this year than in the previous years. I want to just share from the end the real surprise that I had. So I did enjoy a lot, and I think that we had a great time with the students, but when the evaluation came in, I was really surprised because some of them really wrote things that I would not have expected to read from them. I read only 2. You have adapted the course to the current situation, and I thank you for that. This is the course that kept me going through the session. I appreciate your dedication and especially your availability at all times. I would have loved to attend one of your courses in flesh. In short, I think you are an exceptional professor. I hope to see you again in circumstances that will allow it. You have given me the pleasure of reading more about the topics you cover, and I thank you for that too. Or another, thank you very much. This course was a gift from heaven. UQAM, which is the university where I teach, has found a rare gem that knows how to teach, explain, and simplify knowledge through clear models. No disappointment. Throughout the course, I had the feeling, this is interesting, of being in the classroom physically and mentally, despite the course being totally remote. Perfect interaction between students and teacher, excellent listener. Thanks again. Now, this is with zero presumption that I say this because this would not be possible, if not for the humanity in which I belong to.
And thank you, Cristiano. How your job at the hospital has changed compared to the beginning of before the pandemic?
So, some of my colleagues maybe stopped drastically what they were doing to dedicate themselves to the care of COVID patients. In my case, because cancer care is maybe considered like an essential care that you cannot postpone in many cases, I think I was fortunate enough to continue to do my job throughout the whole pandemic, at least until now. So I've been an oncologist throughout all the past few months. The most obvious visible change has been a very strong push to implement what we call telemedicine. So like to try and reduce the number of appointments in person for the patients and to do as much as possible phone calls or even Zoom appointments with our own patients, which is something I don't necessarily like, by nature. I like embracing, touching, talking, being in the same room, seeing the patient directly. The COVID has seemed to introduce a distance, not only because you talk through masks, you have to keep a certain distance. And, in my profession, dealing with patients who can get very sick, sometimes I had to do discussions that were very difficult, about end of life and discussing stopping treatments and going for palliative care. And there was very, it felt very abnormal, to do the discussion without even, holding hands or offering an embrace or, having to be worried about keeping a distance as you discuss someone's end of life. And it happened to be happening at the beginning of the pandemic, in particular with some of my, I would say maybe even favorite patients or patients that I had followed for many years, and I myself was suffering, in this discussion. But I guess the first discovery also for these patients that were present physically but still with a distance was maybe that this distance didn't necessarily determine a distance of the heart. I don't know how to say that. For example, in other words, I've discovered that the eyes can smile and eyes can embrace. I've seen in the patients a gratitude like never before, a gratitude for us being there doing our job, a gratitude for us, taking the risk, if you want, to get exposed to the virus, to give them the best possible care, or trying to remain advocate for them, because, sometimes it felt like everyone was talking about the COVID and cancer became like a secondary priority. So our patients could easily feel abandoned. And this leads me also to the telemedicine. What I understood is that the greatest fear of people, especially these people, my own patients or myself, in this particular time, maybe was to be abandoned. And I'll give you a quick example. So at the end of the day, after I was seeing the patients in person, I was going to the list of more or less long list of patients. They were due for a phone call because they were relatively stable. And there was this old man who with a prostate cancer, whom I follow gladly. And then I called him, and the moment he picks up the phone, and it took him some time to understand it was me, because he's also a bit deaf, so probably he wasn't hearing or wearing his hearing aids. And so when he understood it was me, "Oh, Dr. Ferrario, thank you so much for calling me. Thank you, I feel so much better now." And I didn't even tell him anything. I didn't tell him his blood tests were good, or didn't even ask him how he was doing. He was so grateful that I just called him. I give the phone to my wife because I don't hear anything. Thank you very much. So like, and the wife, just told me that they were fine. But I was surprised about this gratitude that came even before knowing the result of his PSA, of his blood test. He really was regenerated by this phone call that seemed so useless to me at the beginning.
Beautiful. And I have a last question, guys, that I would like you to ask. Ale, what in the midst of all of these changes, what has helped you the most in this last month?
In a word, being loved, being deeply loved, and this love has taken the flash of many presences that were in front of me, concrete, from you guys to other friends here in Montreal, and also the gaze of a father, that isn't afraid of reality and look at reality as the place where that love can actually play out, and so that it's a great adventure life, because it's a path through which you go, things that are not chosen by you, but they are all in front of you by somebody who ultimately loves you, and so you can be curious and not afraid of what's next.
And Cristiano, can I ask you the same question? What has sustained you or helped you the most over the last month?
One thing that I'm always reminded of by my own patients is that we cannot postpone our living, to a hypothetical future, So the awareness that I want to live in the present, I guess, without postponing, living to when things will go back to normal. And also the provocation of a friend who invited me to look at this as a call for myself, to ask myself what is in this crazy situation, what is in this unexpected circumstance, for me to discover. Yes, and then, if I may, I think Zoom helped me a lot. As much as sometimes I get headaches from too much time on Zoom, I think I want to start a petition for the guy who invented Zoom to become a saint as soon as possible, because I think it kept us all a bit more sane. Even to be able to see my friends and my family in Italy, even if it was virtually, that's been a great gift. It's easy to criticize, it's not in person, but when you think about it, it could have been much worse maybe a century ago. So we had it easy, maybe.
Hey, guys, thank you very much for this chat, and I'm very grateful, because in listening to what happens in your life, it's really clear that you really see, you always have this gaze of curiosity in everything that happens, and this is a beautiful witness for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Ciao.